What's up, guys? Oh, what's going on? I am back. Off to a great start. I am jet lagged. I am jet lagged. I don't know if I look jet lagged. I'm not even fully prepared. I got to be honest with you. You already heard the air horn. But anyway, it is game day. We are a little over 30 minutes away from kickoff. And I think everyone wants to see the Chiefs bounce back and win, right? That's what everyone wants to see. Everyone, including the haters. That's why they keep coming back to this page. That's why they keep watching Chiefs games and keep talking about the Chiefs. But nonetheless, I see you guys are hopping on. Appreciate you guys joining me. Apologies for not doing a podcast on Wednesday. I actually had intentions of doing one. Yes, while on vacation, I just took my laptop and I was going to use the microphone, the built-in microphone on those laptops, but I actually did one after the Bills game, and it sounded pretty damn bad. So I even kept that podcast short. So I just decided no, not going to do it. By the way, here's I got up at 4 a.m. this morning. Here's how much battery I have left on my phone. Look at that, 10%. 10% battery left. I'm gonna go ahead and charge this on my little battery bank there, but. All right, let's talk some Chiefs. How are you guys feeling? Because obviously losing a second straight game, not what a lot of people had in mind, especially the way the Chiefs have been kind of hurting themselves these past couple of weeks. I think a lot of people just want to see the Chiefs come out and play better football on the offensive side of the ball. Yeah, sure. We keep hearing everyone say, yeah, we're going to get it fixed and all. And a lot of people are kind of at a point where they're just not quite sure. A couple of weeks ago, a lot of people were trying to, when I say a lot of people, I'm talking people outside of Kansas City, like the national media, guys like Pat McAfee and Colin Cowherd, Rich Eisen, guys who know a lot about the sport of football, guys who've been covering the sport a long time, and a lot of optimism that the Chiefs would still get the 1 seed or maybe number 2 at the very least. And then come to find out, you lose that game against the Bills. Still, there's some optimism out there. But I'm listening to a lot of the media out there, and I heard Rich and Covino, or Covino and Rich, however you want to say it. If you've played Grand Theft Auto, any of the Grand Theft Auto video games, you've heard Covino and Rich. So if you listen to their radio show, you know very well who they are and how long they've been around. But I'm listening to their show, and they're talking about how that whole like blow up on the sidelines, that could be like the start of something new with this football team. I don't really know if I buy that, though. I don't. It's December the 17th. And I mean, that happened 7 days ago, but we're kind of at a point now where, okay, a loss to, disastrous drop by MVS. Oh, okay, that's gonna, wake the team up. No, it doesn't. The loss to the Bills, the way they lost to the Bills, that's gonna wake the team. No, that doesn't happen either. Who they lose to the week before the Bills? I am all sorts of jet lag guys, so forgive me. I can't recall who they lost to the week before. The Packers. Yes, okay, the Sunday night game. Who could forget that? Even a game like that, where the Chiefs did not play their best football, but had an opportunity in the end there. And the way they lost there because of bad officiating. I mean, that's the reason for the game. I'm just saying that drive right there. The Chiefs have had so many weird incidents this year, but at the end of the day, they have no one to blame but themselves. The drops, the turnovers, the lack of execution, the route running, so many things. And I know a lot of people continue to have this conversation about Eric Bieniemy versus Matt Nagy, and I don't really know at this point what that's going to do unless you truly believe that firing Matt Nagy and bringing in someone else, and I don't know who that someone else would be, but if you truly believe someone coming in might do better, whether it's, well, I don't think it's going to happen now, the firing, but in the future, that is, because I don't know if a lot of people have any optimism that the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl with this unit here. Some might still feel this way, some not. So I don't know. It's a bit of a weird situation. I my flight was at 6 a.m. So I posted that a little later on, Daniel. So Bolton and Tranquil at the same time today. Maybe not the exact same time, maybe a snap or two, but definitely having both of them available. That is going to be that's going to be a big deal. The national media has given up on the Chiefs. I don't know about that because I was saying at the beginning of the podcast or the live stream, I should say, a lot of people were still pretty high on the Chiefs, and I think Rich Eisen even said, like, okay, let's say they lose to the Bills, which the Chiefs did. He still believes that the Chiefs can do a lot of damage. Now, I know the Dolphins don't have Tyreek Hill today, but they should handle the Jets. Now, we say that, but look what happened to them last week against the Titans. And then you look at, by the way, I apologize. The laundry is in this room over right here. So if you hear some weird, like, if you hear that kind of noise, that's why. They're both the dryer and the washer, they're going on at the same time. I got home an hour ago. So I am tired as hell, guys. It's been a day. Plus I was up really late last night watching the UFC fight. So anyway, I think people still believe in the Chiefs, because here's the thing. Yeah, the Chiefs have their issues, maybe the worst of the issues of some of the top tier AFC teams. Okay, but what about Miami? I mean, who have they beaten so far? And what about last week? And then Baltimore. They have not looked their best recently either. Yeah, they were blowing out teams a few weeks ago. That was then. And, what happened, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks ago and what's going on now in December, two completely different things. So a lot changes in the course of a season, especially in the span of those many weeks. I kind of just alluded to that time period right there. So I think what happens is, you see other teams struggle, because here's what happened. The Chiefs obviously lost the way they did. Okay. We don't need to go over the details. Everyone knows what happened. And then about 30 hours later, the Miami Dolphins lose to the Titans. And all of a sudden, I think the negativity from Chiefs fans kind of changed. It wasn't as bad anymore. Here's what's going to happen, because the Broncos got shellacked last night. Russ got cooked, as I like to say. So the Chiefs are going to not, I think there's more than a 90% chance they win. I think I saw on ESPN that their odds are at a 93%. If they win today, it'll go up to a 95% to win the AFC West for an 8th straight season. But the thing you got to keep in mind is, and I say this a lot when it's playoff time, going into the playoffs, everyone's record is 0-0. Yeah, sure, there are teams that have the upper hand and have certain things here, because, you can look at regular season stats, like who won, who had the best record in one-score games, who was battle-tested the most, who had the best passing game, who had the best rushing game, who had the best defense, all that stuff. But then we talk about all of that coming into the playoffs, and a lot of that stuff just ends up becoming irrelevant. Not every single time. Some teams that dominate in the regular season end up playing the same way in the playoffs, but it's not always the case. It changes a lot. So I think the optimism some Chiefs fans are holding on to now is, this is a year where the AFC, as dominated as competitive, I shouldn't say dominant, but it's been very competitive. A lot of people said that before the year. Now, the top tier teams, a lot of people said it was Kansas City, Cincinnati, and Buffalo, and you're not really seeing Buffalo and Cincinnati being as good as they are. Yes, Cincinnati's in the playoff spot now, but who's betting money on them to go all the way at the moment? I don't think anyone is. So when you look at who the top tier teams are, and to go back to the Bengals, yeah, they're in the playoffs now, but look at the rest of the wild card teams. There are so many backup quarterbacks. And then a team like Cleveland, who lost to Deshaun Watson a few weeks ago, but they're still playing. They're still winning games. I mean, I thought Cleveland was going to fall off a cliff and kind of join the Raiders and the Chargers to kind of be like separated from the rest of the pack. No, not even close to that. So the whole AFC picture right now is very weird. And I just think at the end of the day, if you're the Chiefs, you go out and you play these last few games. See what you do. You go play the Patriots. You go play the Raiders on Christmas. You play the Bengals on New Year's Eve. Yeah, New Year's Eve. And then the Chargers the following week, who obviously just fired their coach and don't have their quarterback, don't have their wide receiver. You're playing 4 backup quarterbacks. And listen, maybe the Raiders go back to Jimmy G. I don't know. I mean, you have 4 winnable games. Now, do the Chiefs win all 4? Doesn't feel like they're going to be easy. You just don't know with the Chiefs, depending on their offense, which offense shows up. So ultimately, if you're the Chiefs, you got to go out there and just try to improve on what you can. And I think my biggest issue with the Chiefs, and I think they did a better job of this in the Buffalo game, is quit forcing these long passes. You know, I said this multiple times, both on text and on video. Go back to the Alex Smith dink and dunk plays. I don't care. Like, sure, you don't have the Tyreek Hill and the Sammy Watkins, the Demarcus Robinson type of players. They're just not there for you this year. This offense does not have that. They don't. Not even Rashee Rice would be viewed as that kind of player. But if you go the Alex Smith way, which is doing a lot of the dink and dunk, relying on the running backs to maybe help carry this offense, and then in the rare event one of those deep pass situations opens up, yeah, you go and you fire and hopefully they catch it. So hopefully the Chiefs can maybe do some of that, because at this point I feel like Andy Reid is really trying to force strengths that aren't there, trying to turn these weaknesses into strengths when that's not even happening. So I just want, at the end of the day, for the Chiefs to take it easy. Like, don't put pressure on themselves. Yeah, sure. You feel like your season is in peril when it's really not. You're going to make it to the playoffs, and you're going to get at least one home game. What happens after that, you know, is not within Kansas City's control. And I know there are a lot of people saying, well, they're going to have to go play on the road. Okay. I mean, the best have had to play on the road. Patrick Mahomes has won on the road before. It's not his first time ever. I mean, obviously, Super Bowl games are not home games, except for the Buccaneers one. Yeah, sure, it was an empty stadium, almost empty, but still, you know, you'd rather be at home than travel for a big game like that. But, you know, neutral site games, Patrick Mahomes has won those. So, of course, the Chiefs can go out and win on the road in the playoffs. Could it happen this year? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But I think the whole situation here with the Chiefs is, you know, they're not the only ones dealing with issues. Again, we just talked about the Dolphins and the Ravens. You look at the rest of the AFC playoff picture, the Jaguars, they're not very consistent this year. A lot of people kind of questioning Doug Peterson. I don't know if I agree with that, but topic for another time. And then you look at the wild card. I feel like every week, that wild card picture for the AFC just changes drastically every single week. If you ask me who my 7 teams are going to be in any order, who the 4 division winners are and who the 3 wild card teams are going to be, I don't know. Like I could give you my 7 teams now, and it might not be those same 7 teams. You might have 3, possibly 4 different teams in there. The only one I'm kind of, you know, questioning could be the AFC South. Let me just check their standings real quickly. But other than that, you know, this isn't like the number 1 seed, I think, is out of reach. But I think at the end of the day, if you're, the AFC South is pretty close right now. AFC North, pretty tight also. But I think if you're the Chiefs, man, look, even the Broncos, who have been playing really well, they've now lost 2 of their last 3. And that was a team that was getting the hot hand. I think they had a 5 or 6 game winning streak going at one point. A team like the Miami Dolphins, who, you know, I still remember, hey, they scored 70 on the Broncos and the Chiefs just lost to the Broncos. Remember that narrative? And who won that game? It was Kansas City, and the Chiefs held the Dolphins to 14 points, the fewest they had scored all year. And all of those 14 points came in the second half. One of them kind of on a gimme drive with Chris Jones' behavior after a 3rd down stop there too. By the way, someone was asking, who scares you in the AFC? You know, I have to say Cleveland, because this is a team that I thought was going to go away, and they're still sticking around right now. Now, if they end up losing a game, I think a lot of people are going to say, well, they're not as good as we thought they were. And then they might come back the next week and look really good and I know Joe Flacco, how much does he have left in the tank? Well, I guess we're about to find out. So far, not too bad with the Browns, but in general, the Browns, don't write them off. They're not written off. They're not out of this yet. And they're playing a Bears team that is playing a little better lately, but I still think, the Browns are going to take care of that and find ways to win. Don says Chiefs are going to be fine. Rice getting better every day. We need to score often early and stay ahead. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people talk about scoring early in this one. That's kind of been so here's the weird thing about the Chiefs is the whole second half drama, like not scoring a point in the second half. And then now they're scoring in the second half, but they're not scoring in the first quarter. It's like, what are we doing? What's going on here? Why can we not play good football for 4 quarters? This is a big complaint of mine last year with the Chiefs. And by the way, they went on to win the Super Bowl. Yeah, Browning is playing great. I think he's doing a lot of good things. The only concern would be that offensive line. I mean, if they had a great offensive line, I think they have a serious shot at getting the second best spot in the division, which would be the number 5 seed for the AFC. But they overpaid the guy we warned them about. Dalton said, let's get hot in the playoffs. That's where it matters. Yeah, I suppose. But here's my thing is, again, I know what I said earlier, like whatever happened in the regular season, it doesn't always carry over to the postseason, but that is what we use to make our predictions. And as fans, we kind of use the regular season as whether or not we're going to be optimistic moving forward. So I think, how do we feel about the way the Chiefs try to handle improvement this year? Because they haven't really shown a lot of improvement. Brandon says, how do you feel about KC? How do you feel KC will handle adjustments throughout the game? This game specifically? Well, let me to answer your question. I think Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo have done a good job of making adjustments the past few games, because you look at the Bills, they go and score 14 points. Well, what happened after that? They only scored 2 field goals after that. So they go from scoring 2 touchdowns to 2 field goals. If you're the Chiefs, man, you got to feel good about that. You got to think your offense can do and should do better than that. As far as the offensive side, yeah, you're seeing gradual improvement. You're not seeing enough improvement to win you football games. Now, if you have to make adjustments in this one, I don't know, man. A lot of people are going to be questioning this game for sure. I'll take a win. I don't care if you win 3-2 or 45-44. I think everyone just wants to see the Chiefs win a game. That's what everyone in town wants. I'd like to see 4 quarters of strong play on both sides of the ball for the Chiefs and red zone touchdowns versus field goals. Yeah, that's the other thing too. The Chiefs have done a good job of moving the football up until the past couple of weeks. Well, I take that back. Even then, they've done a good job of moving the ball. But the drive killers, that's what hurts the most. And I know the 2 turnovers last week did not hurt you in terms of the Bills trying to cash in and score, but they were getting into a rhythm before those 2 turnovers. The interception from Mahomes and then the fumble from Rashee Rice. So to me, it's like you gotta eliminate those errors, because again, I acknowledge the Bills didn't do anything, but the way the Chiefs are playing on those drives look like they could have ended in a touchdown. So, or at the very least, some sort of points, maybe a field goal, but they've got to play better than that for sure. Jacksonville fan tonight. Yes. Jacksonville fans indeed tonight. Why isn't Andy coaching the team he has instead of the one he actually wants? It's like it's a week 5 historically, and he had made great adjustments back 1/3 of the season. Yeah, this is a good question, Dan. And that's kind of what I was saying earlier. It's like, don't force things you don't have. That's what I want to see is okay, you know what your strengths and weaknesses are. It's December. You're not going to see how many teams right now in the NFL do you think will make vast improvements from December the 17th to the January the 8th, or whenever the last when is the last regular season game? The 12th. Okay. Essentially a little more than a month, 4 weeks. Who's going to make a big improvement? I don't know if anyone will. Not going to say no one can. Not going to say no one's capable of it, but I don't think anyone's expecting that this late in the season. But you do have some things you can do, and you can win certain ways with your team. And I think Andy Reid doesn't want to do that, wants to go back to that style. And I think the players also have that mindset too, because that's been the way this offense has been. I know this receiving core has not been good this year, but this was a receiving core. A lot of them were around last year, because a lot of people keep mentioning the only big difference on this offense is you went from Juju Smith-Schuster to Rashee Rice. So a lot of the guys that were here last year, they saw this offense and how great it was. I think number one in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes led the NFL in touchdown passes, passing yards, almost won MVP unanimously, won the Super Bowl MVP. I mean, no one was even close to Patrick Mahomes last year. So this offense, and by the way, your two tackles that you had last year, they led the NFL in pressures allowed. So even with that problem right there, the Chiefs still had this really good, prolific offense. Mahomes had a record-setting year last year. But that one major change from Juju to Rashee has seemed to fluster people. I know some people are mentioning Orlando Brown to Donovan Smith. I mean, Orlando Brown is still leading the NFL in quarterback pressures allowed. Donovan Smith, yeah, he's not too far behind, but still better than OBJ. Now, they have gone from Donovan Smith to Wanya Morris, who is by far better than both of those guys, Smith and Brown combined. And then you look at right tackle. I know Juwan Taylor, the whole pre-snap penalties. Outside of that, I don't think Juwan Taylor has been that horrible of a pass blocker. He's been pretty good in that area. So to me, it's just a matter of trying to get this offense to remember, hey, they've played together before and have looked really good in the past. And by the way, not everyone was here, but back in 2020, let me just say this, 2021, everyone remembers Chiefs started 1-2 and then eventually 3-4. Mahomes was leading the league in interceptions, and a lot of people wrote the Chiefs off, and they came back. And I know the season didn't end the way they wanted it to end, but they were an overtime away from the Super Bowl. And then you go back to 2015. Now, this was before Patrick Mahomes came to Kansas City. I think it was a freshman at Texas Tech, but remember that 1-5 start in 2015? And a lot of the odds makers had the Chiefs with a 1.4% chance. You can hear my that little jingle right there. That means the laundry's done. That's always a good sign, especially when you come back from vacation when you have a lot to do. When you I lost my train of thought with this, but the 1-5 start, you know, the Chiefs came back from that and they won 10 in a row, 11 if you include the playoff win. Their first, by the way, that 1-5 start, what happened? They won their first playoff game in 22 years. So here's my point about bringing up the past, because not that it's relevant to today, but there is one important thing about that, is that this team is not going to just roll over and quit. Yeah, they have, and I'll say this, a lot of the things with this offense is bad. This might be, statistically speaking, the worst offense in the Mahomes era. But I think in terms of overall situations, the Chiefs have been in worse situations before. They're leading the division right now. In 2015 and in 2021, they were last place in their divisions. Those 2 years, I should say. And a lot of people wrote the Chiefs off both those years, and they found a way to come back from both of those. 2015, they didn't win the AFC West, but they got to the playoffs and they won. And in 2021, they won the AFC West. And I mean, the rest of the division collapsed when everyone thought that they would dominate the Chiefs, especially after that Chargers win. So to me, it's just, this Chiefs team needs to find its focus, needs to find their confidence. I think the confidence part is a big part right there. If you don't have that, how are you going to play as a team? That's see, Brian says it here. We're beating ourselves more than other teams beating us. We clearly lost to penalties. Yeah, that's a good point, Brian. And again, that's the way things happen. The Chiefs have been in situations where the opposing teams have beaten themselves, and the Chiefs capitalize on that. That's what you're supposed to do. Yeah, luck is part of it. By the way, people talk about being lucky. Some people mean it in a negative way to try to discredit a team. Here's my thing. Anytime I say a team's lucky, so what? Like, that's not a bad thing. I would rather be lucky than to lose. There's nothing wrong with being lucky. Even like, look at the Patriots when they were trying to go 19-0. You look at some games that year, they were in some situations where they were up against the wall and it looked like they were going to have their first loss of the year. And what do you know? They end up finding a way to squeeze out a win and had a little bit of luck on their side with some of the opposing players taking care of the football and whatnot. I remember Tom Brady in the AFC Championship game that year before they played the Giants in the Super Bowl and lost. I think Brady had his worst game. He had like 3 picks in that one against a very stacked Chargers defense. Remember that? The late 2000s, the Chargers defense, how great it was back then. But the Chargers on offense, they were banged up, which is not something that the Patriots can take credit for, but they can capitalize on their mishaps. Listen, injuries, opposing teams' mistakes, those are part of the sport. They just are. If you guys are UFC fans, you guys saw Colby Covington and Leon Edwards. Colby Covington is a phenomenal wrestler. The guy can probably outfight anybody in a 25-minute fight. But what happened to him last night? The guy was gassed out sooner than a lot of people anticipated, and his wrestling wasn't there. His confidence wasn't there. Was that any doing of his opponent? Probably not, but that's something you capitalize on. You have to jump on that and try to win the fight and hold on to the belt. That's exactly what Leon Edwards did. That's what you're supposed to do whenever your opponents, whenever they're beating themselves. You got to just capitalize and take advantage of that. Because if you don't, someone else will. Just play a somewhat clean game and play 4 quarters. Yeah, a lot of people have been saying play 4 quarters of good football. Touchdowns instead of field goals. Yeah, a few people get game out of the refs' hands. That's every week, man. Like, I feel like the Chiefs, you could write a book on the most creative ways to lose football games, and I think the Chiefs would be on that list, like in NFL history. What's up, Carver? I see you. Today, we will see all the wide receivers catch the ball. Carver is going for all of the wide receivers to catch the ball. Rashee Rice, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Justin Watson. Who am I forgetting? Richie James. Everyone's going to get a piece of the pie. I like it. I like the attitude, Carver. I want to see Deneric Prince get some snaps. He might. He certainly might. Yeah, and I think that's part of it too. Because remember in the Raiders game, Mahomes threw that nice dart to Kelsey. And a lot of people thought that was going to give him his confidence back. Now, unfortunately, the Chiefs have lost 2 in a row since then. So that's a situation where, you gotta figure out. And by the way, I don't think there's a chemistry issue, because if you look at the Germany game, they were coming off the Broncos loss, and they're going into that press conference feeling pretty good about themselves, smiling, laughing. Travis Kelce was getting the T Swift questions, and the other players on the stage were kind of laughing and giggling about it. Like, man, they did not look like a team that had just lost to the Broncos. Because the thing about this team is, I think they do a really good job of erasing whatever issue they had the previous week, putting it behind them and moving forward. I know a lot of people are not fans of Colby Covington, but he said something interesting in the press conference. He said there's a reason why the front window is bigger than the rear view window. I never viewed it that way, but it's a pretty good way. That's a really nice perspective, not just in sports, but with life in general too. So I think with the Chiefs, they're trying to look at the bigger picture. And Kelsey said this too. He said, look, we're still the 3rd best team in the AFC, still on top of the division, still have a chance to improve our seeding. And he's right. No one's perfect in this division right now, or a conference right now. A lot of opportunities. The number 1 seed, not necessarily clinched Not like there's a runaway battle with it, but it's also not. It's an uphill battle. I'll put it that way. The number 2 seed, I think, is very doable. Miami has a very difficult schedule. I think Miami wins today. The next 3 games, including the Ravens, I think people are going to have questions about Miami. Trust me, I'll say this right now. Miami will win today. That's my prediction. But the next 3 games, and this will be my final thought because the game is about to start, but the next 3 games for Miami, because they haven't beaten a team with a winning record. I think a lot of people are going to look at these 3 games for Miami and they're going to say, okay, what is this Miami team? Because, yeah, they scored 70 and they were scoring all these points, and Tyreek Hill, maybe not, will get 2,000 yards. I don't know how serious his injury is. He looked like he was okay coming in. But I think people are going to have a lot of questions about this Miami team going into the playoffs. And kind of what I said at the beginning of the live stream. Well, just because whatever happened in the regular season doesn't mean it'll always happen in the postseason. So for all we know, the Dolphins could get their first win against a team with a winning record in the playoffs, because that's how things work sometimes. Okay. All right, guys. I am going to get out of here. It is time for some Chiefs football. I need to relax. I am tired as shit. I've been up since 4. Guys, I hope I can stay awake for the game. I'm serious. That's how tired I am. I don't know. My face looks red on camera. I don't know if that's the light or what. I am exhausted. 2 vacations in the span of 3.5 weeks. I am ready to not have a vacation for a while. Okay, I'm out of here, guys. Enjoy the game. I will talk to you at halftime. Go Chiefs.